it's highly recommended that you complete the lesson on the future will before this one, because they're closely related. The English equivalent of the conditional is would. Would. For example, I would leave if I could. That I would leave is what we're going to learn. I would learn Spanish in Spain if I had the time. The I would learn is the verb formation that we're going to learn. We've already looked at I will learn Spanish, and now we're going to look at the conditional I would learn Spanish. And for the future, we learnt re and remos as our starting points. And for would, we're going to fix on ría and ríamos. Ría and ríamos. So that's R, I with an accent A for ría, and ríamos, the we version, R, I with an accent A, M-O-S. So try saying that a few times. Ría, ríamos. Ría, ríamos. Ría, ríamos. So let's take to speak. Hablar. I would speak. Hablaría. Hablaría. And we would speak. Hablaríamos. Hablaríamos. Doesn't feel very natural to say such a long word. Hablaríamos. To eat is comer. I would eat is comería. Comería. We would eat. Comeríamos. Comeríamos. So the full verb plus the ending. And that's why we're learning ría, including the R, and ríamos, including the R, so that you remember that you need the whole infinitive. And the other parts of the verb are quite guessable. You know that the U is going to end in an S, and it's rías, rías. So, hablarías, you would speak, or you would talk. Aprenderías, you would learn. Aprenderías mucho español en España. You would learn a lot of Spanish in Spain. For he, she, and it, you may wonder if ría is for I would and rías for you would. What's it going to be for he and she? And it is in fact ría, exactly the same as for I. So, compraría, he or she would buy. Comería, he or she would eat, or I would eat. And you may think that this could get confusing, because in a conversation, how would you know who is being referred to? But usually the context is quite clear. The person that you're talking about is clear in the conversation. And if not, then normally extra clarification is given. So for example, if you were going to say, I would buy something cold. I would buy something cold, but Miguel would buy something hot. Then you would say, yo compraría algo frío. Yo compraría algo frío. Pero Miguel compraría algo caliente. And that yo, the I, which normally you don't need, in Spanish because of the verb endings. You would use in this context to make it clear that it was I would do this, but he would do something else. Yo compraría algo frío, pero Miguel compraría algo caliente. And then finally, they is very guessable. Rían, R-I with an accent A-N. Hablarían, they would speak. Comerían, they would eat. So let's practice these. How would we say they would drink? They would drink. Beberían. How about we wouldn't eat meat? We wouldn't eat meat. And meat is carne. We wouldn't eat meat. What would that be? No comeríamos carne. No comeríamos carne. How about María wouldn't buy something cheap. Cheap is barato. María wouldn't buy something cheap. What would that be? María no compraría algo barato. María no compraría algo barato. Now it's important to note that in English we often use would to mean that somebody would refuse to do something or not want to do something in the past. So for example, he wouldn't stop doing it even though I asked him to. He wouldn't stop. This would means something different here, and it basically means he refused to. It's like an idiomatic use of would in English. And in Spanish, it can't be used in this way. So you would have to say, in Spanish, you would have to say something like, no quiso parar. He didn't want to stop. No quiso parar. But you wouldn't be able to use the would for he refused to do something or he didn't want to do something. We might say, he wouldn't help me. He wouldn't help me even though I really needed it. And it basically means he didn't want to help me or he refused to help me. Anyway, let's move on to the irregular aspect of these verbs. It's quite straightforward. At the beginning of the lesson, I suggested that you complete the lesson on will before this one. The reason is because everything that is irregular in will, it is irregular in the same way in would. The stem changes are exactly the same. So, I will have is tendré. I would have is tendría. Same stem, just using the ría, tendría. I would have tendría. Let's do a few more of these. Saldré. Saldré was I will go out. Saldría is I would go out. I would go out. But obviously also he or she would go out. Venir, to come. So vendré, I will come. Vendría, I would come. Vendría. or he or she would come. And as this is quite straightforward, let's go straight on to two other ones. I will do, haré, and I will say, diré, or I will tell, diré, haré, diré. That's the will. I will do, or I will make, and I will say or tell. And for the would, haría, I would do, or he or she would do. And diría, I would say, or he or she would say or would tell. Haría, diría, haría, diría. And our last group is got podré, because I will be able to, and podría, I would be able to, or he or she would be able to, podría. And obviously with all of these, you just add the appropriate verb ending. So podríamos, we would be able to. No podríamos ir, we wouldn't be able to go. For I will want, querré, querré, double R. For I would want, querría, 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 I would want. No querría, I wouldn't want, whatever. Sabré was I will know. Sabría, I would know, or he or she would know. Sabría, sabría. So let's practice all of these. How would we say they wouldn't have the time. They wouldn't have the time. The time is el tiempo. So they wouldn't have the time is no tendrían el tiempo. No tendrían el tiempo. What about she wouldn't be able to come today? She wouldn't be able to come today. Today is hoy. She wouldn't be able to come today. Would be no podría venir hoy. No podría venir hoy. What about they would do something fun? They would do something fun. Harían algo divertido. Harían algo divertido. Harían algo divertido. They would do something fun. What about just you would do? You would do. Harías. Harías. So the question, we could make the question, what would you do? What would you do? What being qué? So how would you ask the question, two-word question, what would you do? ¿Qué harías? ¿Qué harías? ¿Qué harías? And how would you say, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. No sabría. No sabría. No sabría.